Welcome back to another episode of Who's Got Next. It's a special episode. We are minus Brandon Justice and minus Zach Libby today because it's a reason why it's a special episode here. I've got my guy, our rocket ship here, Mr. Davey Scoops himself, Davis Moseley. How are you doing today, man?
I am good. I love the nickname. I love it. Like I am Davey Scoops. That's who I am. But look, I'm good. I'm glad to be here. We're gonna have an informative show.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this was kind of important for us to do. Just it's having a football and basketball episode is fine, but I think right now we're kind of in the fortunate spot where there's just plenty of information out there for basketball where we can dedicate an entire episode just to that. So, and you've been doing a great job with keeping the pulse on everything, and it's been very busy. It's been a very busy month for you, I guess. I guess we'll start with the Peach Jam and everything too. You experienced your first Peach Jam, your first big assignment as a big boy journalist here. So how did that event go? How valuable was that to you for just your overall experience?
Yeah, it was huge. Such a big thing for me. I got to go down there and meet the Rivals national analysts, and I actually sat with them for the majority of the time, talked with them, got their feel on things, got to meet a lot of good people. They introduced me to so many guys. It was humongous for my development as a young journalist, young writer, whatever we want to say. It was incredible. There were so many good players. I like to call it the I think I say it's the largest collection of elite youth basketball talent in the world. And that's what it stands for. EYBL stands for Elite Youth Basketball League. And that is exactly what it is. It's tremendous talent, so many high level players, and including 150 college coaches, including head coaches from some of the premier programs in the country.
Yeah, no doubt. It's been to a couple. I've never personally been to Peach Jam myself, but I've been to Spieth and down in Indiana and a bunch of other tournaments. I think basketball recruiting, especially in the AAU setting, is a completely different breed than football. I mean, it's completely different. I mean, yeah, you have the camp circles, the 7-on-7s and whatever, but when it comes to AAU, people are crazy about their AAU, especially those inside their circles. So, it's good that you got, some FaceTime with a lot of heavy hitters out there in the AAU circles, because really those guys become invaluable, especially the kids that are hard to reach. So
no question, they make the recruiting cycles go round.
Yeah,
without those guys, there's no getting in contact with all of them.
Yep.
They do a great job getting media in touch with players and vice versa, and as well as college coaches.
Yeah.
At the end, they run some premier AAU programs, and we couldn't do our job without them. So
yep, it's a blessing and a curse sometimes.
Definitely.
All right, well, that's enough small talk for now. I think it's time to get into the nitty gritty. Why we're here. People want to know. You've been busy on the board, so. I guess we'll start with Zayden High. You've spoken to him and his family. They just recently came off an official visit to Michigan. By all accounts, it was a solid visit. But when are they not solid visits? I've never heard of a recruit say, "Wow, this visit sucks." But from your talks with the family, what was kind of the overall feel of the visit and how things went for the family?
Yeah, so I've spoken with Zayden twice, and I've spoken with his mother once. I spoke with him prior to the visit at Peach Jam, in which he just basically, reiterated how good Jawan's been to him and his family. Built a really great relationship, and it's the same thing we hear. Jawan likes to build that relationship both on the basketball court and off, as a coach, as well as just a mentor. And I think that really sticks out to the Highs. Specifically Zayden, he really appreciates the way he checks up on him. And as for it goes, following the visit, I spoke with his mother. I'd like to say the day after they got home, and I think she quoted it as an amazing visit, and it was truly a great experience for them getting to gel with the staff in person, because that's a lot different. The one thing that Jawan's in our staff is really good at over at Michigan is when those players are on campus, they really, really hit hard on those relationships and build some special ones. And that's what you hear every time a player leaves campus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as good as Juwan is on the phones, and don't discredit, you know, Sadi and Howard and Phil as well. They really work on that in-person connection, and that's what really stuck out with Zayden. You know, his mom told me that it was a lot of fun getting to see her son gel with some of the players currently on the roster, and overall see that family environment. Because at the end of the day, that's what's important to his family and important to him as well. He wants that ability to play early, like a lot of kids. He wants a coaching staff that he trusts. But at the end of the day, you know, he's looking for a family, and Michigan's presenting him that opportunity.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned playing time and family. Obviously, you know, the family atmosphere is you know, the Michigan calling card. It's been that way even before Juwan Howard, you know, got to Ann Arbor. I guess, you know, every program heading into an official visit kind of has these check boxes of stuff that they want to sell a recruit on. You know,
Sure.
obviously outside of obviously playing time and, you know, wanting that family atmosphere, being able to connect with your coaches that you're going to be mentored with for the next handful of seasons. You know, what were the kind of the, I guess, major selling points that Howard and company were wanting to make sure that, you know, that the boxes were being checked for the High family?
Yeah, so one of the big things to Zayden is what his potential fit would be and the role he could possibly play. You know, he likes to see himself as a tweener forward between a 3 and a 4, and I think the staff sees him more as in that 4 role, which is certainly fine with him. He's probably close to 6'10", 6'10" and a half even. He's a very big kid. He grew maybe 5 to 6 inches over the last year and a half, which you know is interesting because that's exactly when his recruitment started to take off. So
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be able to come in, play that 4 role, stretch the floor, be aggressive on offense. That's what he does really well, and I was impressed to see. He wasn't just floating on around the arc. He really was getting the ball, getting into the paint, putting up shots, floaters, and he really attacks that glass hard. And it's stuff that the staff was really impressed with. And I think that was the main thing going into the visit. You know, like we said, the early, you know, playing time as well as that family atmosphere is big for them. But that role, he's going to be able to come in and play that 4 for Michigan, get big minutes, and he's going to be able to create on the ball, defend on the other side, and really attack the glass and hopefully knock down some shots. And I think that was big for High and his family to see.
So I guess, you know, the next logical question is kind of, you know, in order to officially visit, you got to have some sort of interest. You know, I mean, you're not just going to take one just to, you know, say, okay, this is not. So there's obviously some interest there. You know, we talk about a bunch of schools being in there. Obviously, the North Carolinas of the world are in there for High. Texas, you know, being a Texas-based kid, but that's not necessarily the case. That, you know, that's a shoo-in for him. So I guess, you know, in your opinion, who do you think kind of stands out most for High right now? You know, in terms of, I mean, maybe not necessarily like public leaders, but, you know, just stuff that you've been gleaning from, you know, talking with his parents and the kid himself. Who do you think kind of is sticking out the most right now?
I think that, you know, being a Texas kid, that's always going to have a little bit of pull, but I'm not necessarily sold that he's like a, you know, anti-leaving the state kind of
Mm-hmm.
kid. At the end of the day, he transferred to Arizona Compass Prep for a senior year of high school, which I think is a pretty telling sign that he's willing to move for basketball for better, you know, opportunities. I think North Carolina is a program to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I think Michigan's right there at the top. If not, they are the leader. But I think North Carolina is another program to watch. He officially visited Villanova, and that was a good visit. I think North Carolina and Michigan are probably those two towards the top. But the one thing that I'll say is North Carolina got in a little late with High. They recently offered him this month, I think, or last month in July, whereas Michigan offered him 5-6 months ago. And I think that's big for Zayden. I think he's got a sense of loyalty with Michigan. They've been on him for a while, and he feels that Michigan wanted him early on in the process, whereas not saying North Carolina maybe didn't, but they recently offered him. So I think that's something to monitor. But I like where Michigan and North Carolina are in particular for High.
Okay. You know, I guess the last question on High, you know, in regards to timelines, you know, is he a guy that's willing to kind of end it when the feeling is right? Does he has a specific timeline? Does he want to drag this out? Is that kind of been discussed at all, you know, between his circle?
Yeah, so I spoke with his mom, who told me that they did want to officially visit both Texas and North Carolina.
Mhm.
I wanted to make sure I clarified that they do want to visit both North Carolina and Texas.
Sure.
He's taking an unofficial visit to Texas, but getting that official will be big for them. But once that visit's over, all bets are off, and they currently don't have any planned. They just moved him into school
Mhm.
for Arizona Compass Prep. They moved him in this week, so I would imagine it's probably fall visits for him. But following that, I don't think this is a kid that's going to take it to April for the final signing period. Rather, I think I'm so sorry, my dog's going berserk back there. But I think
Hey, it happens.
I think he's the kind of kid that once he gets his visits out of the way, he's not going to drag it on. I think he'll make a decision. I think he has an idea, at least remotely, of what the programs are that stand out to him.
Sure. Well, it's obviously, it sounds like Michigan is definitely flexing their recruiting muscles here a little bit. Finally, not finally, but kind of really just finally getting I guess, a sense of direction of where they want to go in terms of positions now that they have some scholarship flexibility that they didn't necessarily have last cycle.
Exactly. That was what was so difficult with them. They didn't know what they were going to have this upcoming year. So how can you project what you have the next year?
Right.
That was so difficult for them. And I think a lot of Michigan fans in particular were potentially getting frustrated, not seeing too many offers go out, not seeing the the importance in the dedication to certain recruits. I think that might have ruffled a little feathers on the Michigan fan side. But at the end of the day, they didn't have the spots, but
Yeah.
now they know what they're going to have, and
Yep.
and they've set those spots aside, and they have their targets locked. They know who they want,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to go after them. And I think we're actually going to get into another one that they're going after pretty hard.
Yeah, no, that's the perfect segue because that's exactly where I was leading. Obviously they've got someone in their sights, one of the best players in the nation, not even just the best player in his position in 5-star Isaiah Collier. You've been locked into this one, you've been all over it, you've been talking to everyone in relation to him. I guess we'll take it back, to square one. We'll talk about, I guess, how this relationship with Michigan developed, how, I guess, the inroads happened. And then after that, we'll kind of get into the official visit stuff. But,
Sure.
From square one, how was this relationship, developed? Because it's not every day that Michigan comes in. I mean, not necessarily saying they came in late, but, it's not every day that, you're able to just waltz right in for a 5-star and get his attention.
Sure.
Most of those guys have been recruited for years, and that's not necessarily the case with Collier, but that's not a bad thing either. So
Sure.
I guess, how did that relationship between, because this is a Juwan Howard special. I mean, let's not get this wrong. I mean, Juwan's fingerprints, handprints are all over this one. I mean, This is a Juwan Howard special, as I like to call it. So I guess, how did that relationship develop, and, how has it blossomed since then?
Yeah. So in November, it's very interesting. In November, Isaiah Collier released a top 7. And that it didn't include Michigan. At that point, he didn't even have a Michigan offer, which was interesting. I think the programs were Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, and then Cincinnati, UCLA, Florida State, and USC. I think made up the 7. And Michigan was nowhere to be seen. They offered him in early 2022. I think it was January, I believe. And since then, Juwan Howard has flexed his muscles, like you said earlier. He has put Michigan in a prime spot for in my opinion, the best player in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah Collier is ranked number 4 on Rivals.com, and I think he's got room to move up even further. He's been sidelined with a knee injury that probably prohibited him from grabbing that number 1 spot. But talking with some guys, there was some reports that he could have even moved up to that number 1 spot, and I think it would have been deserving. But Juwan Howard has put, like you said, he's put his fingerprints and handprints all over this one. This has, like you said, been a Juwan special.
Mm-hmm.
It has probably been the recruit Juwan has prioritized more so than any recruit in his entire Michigan tenure. He loves Isaiah Collier, and he has similar feelings to me that Isaiah is the best player in the country. And he has prioritized him and worked his tail off to hopefully bring Isaiah to Ann Arbor.
Yeah, no doubt. That says a lot when you say that, Juwan, this is the most prioritized recruit in the Juwan Howard era, because, there's a bunch of guys that he did a really great job with. I mean, one in particular comes to mind, and Musa Diabate, which, he was the sole reason why he came to Ann Arbor, was because of what Juwan Howard did in prioritizing him and his family. So, that's saying a whole heck of a lot about, how highly Juwan thinks of Collier. And, that will only bode well in terms of, when you break down, when you get into the nitty gritty stuff of, relationships and where his best relationship is and things like that. So, so now we'll move on to the official visit. He obviously, from all accounts, again, it was a very solid visit, but, Michigan pulled out a couple of little extra stops, for this one, just to make sure that they really kind of drove the point home that, he's the guy,
Yeah.
So I guess, multi-part question here is, the first part, obviously, how did the visit go? And then B, how did Michigan kind of incorporate some little extra things to be appreciated, by the family and Isaiah himself?
Yeah. So one thing I want to mention is, I told you Isaiah is probably the most prioritized recruit in the Juwan era. Not only that, but his family has been prioritized.
Mm-hmm.
And that's major for this group of guys. The Colliers are a great family, but they want a coaching staff that they trust. And that's what Juwan and staff showed. Speaking with them, I caught up with them yesterday and spoke with them for some time. And Miss Chandra, Isaiah's mother, was adamant that one of the most important things that she saw was the trust that she would develop with the staff, making sure they would take care of her son.
Mm-hmm.
And just like any parent, you don't want to leave your kid with someone you don't trust. And Juwan and company really hit that number home with them, and really showed that they care about Isaiah, not only as a basketball player or a student, but as a person. And that was major for the family. That was one of the biggest factors into why the visit went so well. Like you said, Michigan pulled some rabbits out of their hat. They had gotten in touch, and actually one of the bigger things was Isaiah's brother made the trip from LA. He had some work out east, and all reports is that he flew in for the visit, and he knew a lot about the Michigan program. From Isaiah himself told me that his brother knew more about the Michigan program than he did going into the visit, which that says something. His brother's very close. They're very close and good friends. And that's big to know that his brother was there. Not to mention they FaceTimed his sister, who's currently serving our military overseas.
Yeah.
So they or she might not be overseas. I believe she's at least stationed somewhere, and she couldn't make the visit.
Mm-hmm.
But she's in the military, and they FaceTimed her throughout the visit and got some pictures with her on the phone. So it was pretty cool, and
cool.
Showed that it was a true family affair.
Mm-hmm.
And that shows you how serious the Colliers, not only the Colliers, but Michigan took the visit. This is a family affair for both of them. And Michigan wants to show that the Colliers, not just Isaiah, are family.
Sure. What was I guess, obviously being, a top 5-10 guy in the country, I mean, obviously you're going to be sold on being the guy. I guess, how would you kind of define the role that was kind of laid out for Collier in terms of how his fit into the system, what they're going to do at the point guard spot, and, other details that you might have picked up along the way?
Sure. So they've pitched, a similar role to what that of Devontae Jones held, that of what Mike Smith held. And now while Isaiah Collier is a much greater talent than those guys, no disrespect to them. Those were great Wolverines for us and led some good teams to deep tournament runs. Isaiah Collier is a uber talented prospect. He's NBA talent level. And so that's game changer, but they're pitching him a similar role. Now, for granted, he understands that everything must be earned, nothing is given. And he knows that it's a blessing to be, thought of so highly with them. Now, that's important, but that was one of the major points that they looked to hammer home, was that role that they could play. Isaiah can come in, get some minutes early, get some potential starting, 30 minutes a game as a freshman. And that's big for the family. But of course, like I said, Isaiah knows he has to earn it.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people, they look at the 5-star talent and kind of automatically write them off in terms of where Michigan stands for them. They think, all of this is just kind of a cursory, out of respect visit. We've heard a lot of rumors that, the Western schools, UCLA and USC have been really pushing hard for him. Even a team like Cincinnati, which kind of should give Michigan fans some hope that, hey, maybe this interest that Collier has is legitimate and not just, he's just visiting just to fill up his officials and then pick a school elsewhere. So I guess in terms of, out of all of these suitors that Michigan is practically leapfrogged in a matter of weeks, where do you think Michigan sits for Collier? And, how big of a threat is the Cincinnati's, the USC's, the UCLA's for them?
If we want my honest opinion, I don't think
we always want honesty here, Davis. We always want honesty.
I don't think Michigan's envying anyone's position. I really don't. I really like where Michigan stands for Collier. I know the interest in the program is real from his side, and I know the interest is real from Michigan's. I like where Michigan's at. A lot of people tell you UCLA. I haven't quite heard that UCLA buzz. I speak with them, a couple times a week, and while they really appreciate what Coach Cronin's got going on over there and respect the program a lot, I've heard more buzz about Michigan, USC, and even Cincinnati. I've heard a lot of buzz about Cincinnati as of recent. I think that they're firmly and squarely in the conversation in the battle for Collier, which would be a whale of a recruit for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it'd be a whale of a recruit for any program.
Yeah.
This is a top 3 guy in the country, in my opinion. I think he's number 1. But USC, Michigan, Cincinnati, those to me are the 3 programs with the best shot. I wouldn't rule out Michigan being at the top personally, so.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think, when you compare UCLA, USC, Cincinnati to Michigan, I mean, obviously UCLA beat Michigan in the NCAA tournament recently, but, I think when you're talking about program trajectory, you got to give credit to Cincinnati. I mean, they've done a pretty good job recently. UCLA has been, a tournament team. They've had talent, but they haven't really made any moves. And I think, when you're talking just from a developmental standpoint in the trajectory of the program, I think Michigan is I would consider Michigan favorably over the rest of those guys. I mean, I think it's set up that way. So, I guess only time will tell. I mean, do you think that Collier is close to a decision? I mean, he's taken a lot of his visits already. I mean, I don't know what else is really left to be said or to be seen. So what's kind of your feel there?
Yeah. So, I spoke with him, like I said, last night. And one of the questions I had for him was, what are we expecting from a timeline? I had spoken with him at Peach Jam. He came down to support his team. He was, sidelined with a knee injury, but he came down to support. And I asked him, I said, Isaiah, what are we looking at here? And he goes, I want to make a decision before my senior year starts. So he plays basketball for Wheeler High School at Marietta, Georgia. Their season should be starting in mid to late September, I believe. This is what I expect. I expect sometime between late August to early September. I think somewhere in between the last week of August, first week of September. That's where I would guess an Isaiah Collier decision comes. I know he wants to see, some potentially playing style things. I know he knows that Michigan goes overseas to play in a European tour, and he wants to see them play, and he wants to see some more from the other programs. But he has taken all 5 official visits. He took one to Alabama, Cincinnati, UCLA, USC, and now Michigan. So he is done with his official visits. There was a report of Kentucky interest. I don't think that there's anything to it. I think he's down to a Final 4. And I think there's a decision coming sooner rather than later, probably within the next 4 weeks or so.
Now, you bring up a good point, an interesting point about, the overseas trip. Out of that group, it appears that only Michigan is going to be taking that overseas trip. And I know you've mentioned that he would like to see the team play overseas, in some sort of recording. And I don't think it'll be an issue for him to get a recording from someone, someone in the pipeline. So I guess, you can consider that another feather in Michigan's cap that, that's a very specific thing he wants to look for. And there's only one specific program that's actually doing it.
Sure. Now, I think some of the other programs they're certainly going to be able to get him film from whatever, scrimmages they do from the, programs near their school, and there's all sorts of scrimmages, secret scrimmages
Sure.
before. But Michigan's going to be going overseas, playing some of the top talent, overseas. That's big. That's going to show a real playing style, a real potential fit for him. I think that's something to monitor. I really like that Michigan's going overseas, especially with that comment. I'm not saying there's anything more to the comment. It's just a simple observation.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an interesting one, and I'm excited to see that. I know they leave the 17th, and I believe it's a 10 to 11 day trip, something like that. So they'll be home, right before the end of August, which just so happens to coincide with my thoughts for an Isaiah Collier decision.
Sure. And one last point and one last question before we move on. I've kind of noticed this trend, and obviously we're in a modern age now of college recruiting with NIL. When people think of 5-star talents, they're automatically thinking, oh well, someone's going to go and overpay for them, and we all know, just from the football side of things, that Michigan isn't going to play that pay for play game, and Juwan Howard's the exact same way. He's not going to do that. I guess, in your discussions with the family, how does NIL factor in for Isaiah, if it does at all, just to kind of ease the fears of the fans out there who might be listening to this, to thinking, oh yeah, he's just a bag away from going elsewhere.
This is a high quality family. And you just have to talk with them once to know. I'm not going to say a blanket statement. They don't care at all about NIL.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to make a blanket statement like that. But there are a lot more things that hold more value to the Collier family than NIL. Speaking with them, they told me they think it's temporary. They think it's not here to stay. They think there's going to be some regulation, and maybe they don't find it morally right. At the end of the day, they're looking for, and this is a quote that Jim Harbaugh would be very happy about. They're looking for transformational, not transactional. It's a 40-year decision. And as cliche as it might sound from a Michigan reporter, it's the truth. And that's one of the things they value very much so. Even Isaiah will say it. When I asked him what was important in schools, one of the first things he says is education. That's big time for Michigan. That's a major pitch. The family was beyond impressed with the academic centers and all the resources that the academics holds at Michigan. And one of the things that was more impressive to the family was that the staff was up to date on what all the student athletes need to be doing each day.
Yeah.
That was a major thing for the family to see. They were very impressed with Sadie Washington, Howard Isley, Phil, Juwan, and all the other coaches, and what they were knowledgeable on when it comes to the students' academic side. That's big for the family. They want a coaching staff they can trust, specifically Isaiah. He's very, very perceptive. He likes to think things through. He's not so loud, not outspoken, so to say. He dissects things, and he does it in a smart way. And so his family's very, very happy with the way he handles his recruitment. And he wants something genuine, and so does the family. I just don't see NIL being the factor that it is for some other recruits. And
sure.
And look, at the end of the day, I'm a pro NIL guy.
Mm-hmm.
I love NIL. I think paying $1.5 million for the best player in the country is a great thing. Okay, I think it's great, but this family is high quality. They've got a lot of other things they've got their minds on rather than temporary money.
Sure.
They've at the end of the day, this is from Isaiah himself. It could all go away in a second. So he's got to keep working. He's got to earn everything he gets. And I really respect that out of not only Isaiah, but the family as well.
Yeah, very true. Very true. All right. Last question for you before we let you go here. This is from a user named Ryan on our
My
Twitter.
boy Ryan.
Our Twitter sphere here. He asked who would be the first recruit to drop in the 2023 class. I mean, obviously there's a lot of options out there, but there's got to be one. The tap's got to open up with one guy. Who is it going to be?
He asked me.
He asked you.
Why? Nah. Look, that's an interesting question. You would think there would be a little more momentum going. I spoke with Papa Conte, who's definitely a priority for Juwan. He's a big fan of Conte, loves what he brings to the court, and quite honestly, I do as well. He plays so hard and plays with more intensity than any other prospect I've seen so far in the live evaluation periods. I really like Conte. I think he's currently overseas in Senegal. He's back home seeing his parents for the first time in 3 years, which is great for him. I'm super excited for him to get back over there. He was very, very excited to head back home and see his parents. I know they're having a great time if he's over there. If he's not, he's getting ready to leave now. So, I'm sure that's great. Once he comes back, I know the plan was to announce a decision. I've heard a lot of Michigan buzz, and it's one that Michigan's had a little bit of buzz for quite some time. Recently, I've heard some Rutgers buzz, which is interesting. I know Steve Peichels really made him a priority and compared him to current center Cliff Amourier, who starts for them. And I think that's been a focal point for them. If Papa swings blue, I think he's the first recruit to drop. If not, I think we're looking at Isaiah Collier being the first player to commit in Michigan's 2023 class.
That'd be a big one. I mean, that'd be a big fish, the biggest fish of them all. So, I think, a lot of people who are kind of turned off by, perhaps turned off by 5 stars with what happened with Moussa Diabate and Caleb Houston, are going to have to get used to, Juwan just flexing his muscles on the trail. I mean, that's just what it's going to come down to. And he definitely hasn't lost his touch in an NIL world. That's for sure. So, it all sounds good. Hopefully it bounces the right way. I mean, I'm sure things will continue to trend in a positive direction, but that'll do it for us for this episode. I want to appreciate and thank Davis for all of his efforts and everything he does for the site. You are a crucial member of the team, and we're happy to have you and proud of you and your efforts and your growth in this industry. So
I appreciate that very much. My dog's going crazy again.
He's excited for you too.
He appreciates the comments. I do as well. I wouldn't be here without all y'all helping me. Y'all took a chance on me from square zero, so I really appreciate that. I'm a 19-year-old, no experience, no degree, but you know what? I'm willing to work hard and I'm willing to learn. And y'all have been great teaching me, and so I really appreciate the opportunity. And I like to think we've made the best of it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Who's Got Next. We'll be back. Perhaps, maybe there might be an emergency podcast due. We don't know, but we'll see you in 2 Tuesdays from now with our regularly scheduled programming with Brandon and Zach. I'm Josh Henschke. This is Davis Moseley. We will catch you on the site, Michigan.rivals.com at the Maize and Blue Review. Have a great night, and thank you for listening.